This is why I am a musician, is because we are looking for new sounds, something that touches us, something that speaks to us. I hated myself because I didn't find my sound. You see, when he does that record, okay, it's fun. And I love that, and we never use it actually. The first thing I do when I take my guitar is two options. Or I do some very slow exercises just to warm up the fingers and also the brain, because it's very important to understand that when we warm up, it's not only the fingers, it's not only the motor, it's also the mind. And the second option, the one I love the most, is to sight read, because I think it's very, very nice to sight read, to discover new music, to hear some music, because you don't wake up the same way when you hear an exercise that can be boring to listen, and when you listen some music that already puts your mind in a very positive way. Well, I can't tell you, because what I will sight read tomorrow will be even different than the day after, and what I sight read yesterday, but anything I can find. So for example, in my library I sight read already everything, or I can go and buy some new scores. But nowadays I have to say, like, it's so easy to look for new scores on internet that you say, like, okay, let's say, okay, Mertz music on Google, and you will find some new music to read. So whatever you want to sight read is great. I would say that for starting sight reading, the best is maybe the 19th century repertoire, because it's very, very idiomatic. It goes really much easier under the fingers. So let's say the 19th century repertoire. If you start with contemporary music, it can be disappointed at the start. And also what is great, and what I do more and more, and I didn't do before, is to read some Baroque stuff, only the chords, and like you are doing the continuo, like making some continuo and improvising about some scores. The goal when you sight read, actually, it's a very good question, because I think the goal is to make the music sounding the best at the first sight. What means having a good tempo. It doesn't mean the final tempo. A good tempo that makes the music sounding already fluid. Yeah. So the best sight reading is when you never stop. Actually, if you stop, it's a bit like, okay, today I have to play this in concert, even if it's a new piece, to make it sound the best as possible. So just keep a comfortable tempo. If sometimes you have, like even big chords and you don't read all the notes, it's fine. If you have 4 notes to play and you play only 2, it's no problem. You are sight reading. And next time when you will read the score, you will read 4 of them. So just continue, like one movement that never stops. I'm not conscious about what I do when I sight read, because I think you have to be used to it. It's like reading a book. Someone who reads a book every day in his life will read much faster than someone who reads 1 book a year. It's just a habit, So maybe if I start to analyze, maybe I will read actually 2 notes in advance, but I'm not sure about that. I don't know exactly. I couldn't explain it. Just do it. I think the studies, like easy studies, are the easiest to start sight reading, because it's important to take something, let's say, not at our level, a bit easier. Because sight reading is new, so we need to master a lot of things before sight read, and so taking an easy piece is fine. It's very good, and sometimes just for warming up, I love to take easy piece. Why? Because it's super. You enjoy a lot when you hear something that works, and it's much more important to have an easy piece that works than a big thing that you are fighting with. So yeah, little studies are great. Karlsruhe, this is very nice, for example. And also we were talking about what's the technique for reading in advance or what. I think you must be very confident with your instinct. What I mean is that harmonically speaking, for example, or in a line, when there is a line, you know that this will be the next note. So sometimes you don't have to read to know what happens next. And this is very important to understand, because it means that when you sight read, you have to listen and not only read. So to everybody who is watching now, just tomorrow morning, you know what you can do is you take one Karuli or one Karkasi study, you just sight read and you send us an email to see how it was. Good luck.
Then we will receive thousands.
Well, first to answer where does it come from is that this technique, well, I will just show it, for example, that instead of playing, for example, with the left part of the nail, I'm playing with the right part of the nail, so that makes it like this. My fingers are like this when I play. Instead of this, I'm like this. And that comes from, let's say, old French technique by Ida Presti, La Goya. We could even say Tarrega, but Tarrega was a bit different and no nails and stuff like this. So let's say Presti, La Goya in France. And they were big masters, so they had a lot of students. And my teachers, all my teachers, were former students of La Goya and Presti. So that means that when I started the guitar, I started with this right hand technique. And what is funny is that I thought that that everyone played like this. And the first time I went during a summer workshop, and we were like maybe 40 students, and I realized I was the only playing like this. I remember I started to go to see the other students, and I said like, but you have a weird right hand. Why do you play like this? And little by little I understood that I was weird for them. So yeah, all my teachers, Marc Navarro, Paul Ferret, Olivier Chassin, play with this technique. Even if today I call us dinosaurs because we are kind of disappearing. To answer your second question about if I would advise it to people, not necessarily. I don't say it's better, I don't say it's worse, it's just I was taught like this. I like it very much and I wouldn't play in another way because it's my thing. But teaching other people, it's not necessary because it's not necessarily more natural. It depends on students. Sometimes you see when you have a kid, 7 years old, some of them put the hand like this and some of them put the hand like this. So it will be more natural for some and not for others. It's very personal. For me, I consider that what we are seeking is the sound. And physically speaking, the second important thing is to be relaxed anyway. You can play with the left part of the nail. If you are tense, it's not good. You play like this, if you are tense, it's not good. So that's why sometimes I had some argument with some people who told me like, your technique is not good. I mean, for you. And I'm like, I never had any problem for the moment. And even some people who had problem told me that. So I think the most important thing first is to be conscient of your body. And generally we are conscient about what happens in the hand, but musicians, we are not conscious about else in the body, like what happens in your foot at the moment, in your legs, in your thorax, in your arms, everything. And for example, like dancers, they know their body so well that compared to them, we have a very bad conscience. So being relaxed is very, very important. You know, finding a tone is very personal because of what we heard when we were young, what we were educated by. And for example, when I was very young, I remember I loved listening the guitar thanks to people like Andres Segovia, Julian Bream, John Williams, Pepe Romero, all these legends. And even when I was 10, 12 years old, I tried to imitate them. You know, that was, I listened to a recording. I remember once very well, it was a Menuet by Bach, played by Segovia. And there is a moment I heard it sounded like bells. And I was like, how does Segovia make something like bells? And I tried to take my guitars, and during hours I tried to find the bells in my guitars, and there is a moment I kind of liked it, what I was doing. And I think this is our job. This is why I do, this is why I am a musician, is because we are looking for new sounds, something that touches us, something that speaks to us. And I think imitating other people, it's fun, but it's also very interesting because it makes you think your way of playing differently. It doesn't mean you have to play like him, but you discover something. You know, this is possible. There is a sound I rediscovered few years ago, few months ago, is the sound that used Ida Presti, for example, with the thumb on the bass. You know, this very, very large sound with the polpastrello here, instead of having. And I love that, and we never use it actually. So sometimes even like imitating Segovia for fun makes something happening. Like I love to imitate the gavotte en rondeau, for example. When he does that, for example, okay, it's fun, but behind that, something is happening. So when I was young, I loved to try some sounds, and little by little, I kind of had my image of the sound, like the perfect one. I mean, mine, of course. And I worked every day, listening a lot what I was doing to be closest and closest and closest. Honestly, because you know, a lot of people think it's easy for you. You know, when you play concerts, when you do things, it's okay, but things work for you. But before that it works for you, you practice so much. I mean, I dedicated so much of my time with my instrument, thinking about my instruments, dreaming about the sound I wanted to have, and during weeks and months, I hated myself because I didn't find my sound. It means that you know, when you never find something you want, you kind of anger. And I remember when I was 16, 17, I was trying so hard that I hated myself playing the guitar sometimes. And there is a moment you understand that you are doing well, better and better, and you accept things. And but you have to work for that. It doesn't. What I mean is that it doesn't come to you. You have to go to it. Yeah, actually, when I was a teenager, I loved to imagine what was the life of a concertist, for example. Like, what was the life of Julian Bream? You know, okay, he takes the train or the plane. Well, the plane is not ecological anymore, but he travels, and then he discovers a place where he's going to give a concert on the night with a lot of people he doesn't know, and then enjoying like a moment after with all the people and coming back. And actually it's funny because this life I imagined when I was a teenager is really like this, and I love it. You know, sometimes when you dream about something, you are disappointed because it doesn't surprise you, but actually this life is always full of surprises, because you meet a lot of people, new artists or not artists, like interesting people, new friends. You are always moving. That's why, for example, I consider we never have a routine. It's almost impossible to have a routine because every day is so different. Different place, different time, different language sometimes. So yeah, this was one of my dreams, and I'm living it, and I continue to work and practice to enjoy it more and more. I think it's so important. You have to keep practicing, because I don't believe about something that stops and that stays at the same level for anything in life. I think everything is moving. Or you are improving, or you are regressing, but it never stays the same. So if you don't practice, you will lose your level. If you practice, you continue to improve. And it's the same for everything, every types of learning. For learning a language, for learning a science, and that's why one of the best quality for me, for a musician at least, but for a lot of people, it's curiosity. If you're curious, it means you want to learn, and if you learn, you improve. If I had one secret, I couldn't say it, because it's a secret. But no, I don't have any, honestly, I don't have any secret. Maybe this is disappointing, but I really believe in some easy things that are working, practicing, dedication to something you love, like really much. It means taking some time for it, and I really believe in that practicing and working entertains the pleasure and the joy you have to do something. It's completely linked, because since the moment you stop to improve on something, you stop the pleasure. And that's why, for example, if some people that watches that at the moment starts the guitar, for example, and they start to think, oh, it's hard, it's complicated, I want to tell them that this is the best part, because it means that just behind this little wall that is hard to go through, the pleasure is just awesome. And it's how you improve and how you take the pleasure in your activity. Actually, it's a job and a hobby. Yeah, it should be both. Yeah, it should be both.